Mountains in North America are famous for their unpredictable snowstorms and hazardous weather conditions. Mount Lafayette, the tallest peak in the Franconia Ridge, is one such mountain notorious for its rugged terrain. Although the mountain attracts a large number of tourists who hike the snowy trails in good weather, climbers avoid the mountain in bad weather because of the risks present. Some climbers, however, are fearless. One of them was Emily Monica Sotelo, who saw firsthand how unforgiving the White Mountains can be. This is the sad story of a young hiker who disappeared in the White Mountains. Emily Sotelo was a 19-year-old hiker from Westford, Massachusetts, who had a dream of summiting all 48 peaks over 4,000 feet in New Hampshire before her 20th birthday. She was a sophomore at Vanderbilt University. Emily had a passion for volunteer work in healthcare and education. On November 19, 2022, she and her mother visited New Hampshire during the Thanksgiving vacation. Before Emily began her adventure, she first checked the weather reports. The forecast for the valley below the summit predicted temperatures between -27 and -35 degrees below zero. Her mother had also been watching and later said in an interview, "It was cold, but I didn't know anything about the mountains or anything else. It did not look bad." On November 20th, 2020, she began her solo hike at Lafayette Place Campground in Franconia, New Hampshire. She was dropped off by her mother Olivia at 4:30 a.m. at the trailhead near Lafayette Place Campground, where she would begin her hike. After the hike, she would be picked up by her mother between 3 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. at the Flume Gorge parking lot. Her intention was to hike Mount Lafayette, Mount Lincoln, and Mount Flume, three of the most beautiful and challenging mountains in the White Mountain Range. But she had no idea that this adventure would turn into a nightmare for her and her family. Since childhood, she had created a love for hiking and nature. Emily's dream was to climb all 48 New Hampshire peaks above 4,000 feet by her 20th birthday on November 23, 2022. By now, she had already climbed 40 of the 48 summits. According to several sources, Emily was not well prepared for her hike. She was last seen wearing a brown jacket and sweatpants. She was not wearing any of the essential items that officials recommend for day hikes. Emily carried a backpack with granola bars, a banana, water, and a backup battery pack, but she did not have proper winter gear. Although she wore long underwear, she was wearing only light pants and a jacket. She wore heated gloves and a neck warmer, but no hat. Instead of insulated winter boots, she wore shoes suitable for trail running or trekking and not for these cold and snowy conditions. Besides, she also had no map, compass, headlight, or GPS device with her that could help her find the trail or seek help. Emily did have her phone and a backup battery pack, but the freezing temperatures and lack of signal in the area would have quickly rendered them useless. Emily texted her mother with what she wanted to eat after her trip for lunch: quinoa, chicken, papaya, coffee, and water. Around 11 a.m., it began to snow lightly. Her mother Olivia texted her to ask how the hike was going, but unfortunately there was no response. The phone remained silent as the hours passed and the temperature dropped. Her mother became increasingly worried when she still had not returned. She tried calling her daughter again and again, but there was no answer. Emily was reported missing by her family. Local authorities decided to cooperate with the New Hampshire Fish and Game Law Enforcement Division to conduct a search and rescue operation. Initially, several search teams from the Pemigewasset Valley Search and Rescue Team were deployed Sunday night when Sotelo did not return in time. The teams faced extreme weather conditions during the afternoon search, with wind speeds of 30 to 40 miles per hour and a wind chill of -30 degrees Fahrenheit. The extreme weather conditions also persisted overnight, so they decided to continue the search the next day. George Sotelo, Emily's father, who is a gastroenterologist, said the thought of his patients miraculously recovering kept him hopeful during the search. But her mother Olivia, a psychiatrist, said she already knew Sunday night that her daughter was probably dead. "I knew I am a medical professional," she said. "People were telling me to hold hope, but I knew better than that." On Monday, November 21st, searches continued with 60 ground searches, K-9 teams, air support, dogs and drones, and incident command to search a large area in the White Mountains. However, they still faced many challenges such as high winds, cold temperatures, snow, ice, and darkness. The teams also faced the rugged terrains, steep slopes, and dense forests. Unfortunately, they had found nothing this day. The search was again postponed until the next day. On Tuesday, November 22nd, rescue teams found some of Emily's belongings near the headwaters of Lafayette Brook. They also discovered possible tracks in the snow. It took them nearly 2 hours to cover 274 meters. They had to climb over small, ice-covered trees and faced a snow depth up to their waists. More tracks were seen from a helicopter, but because of the falling darkness, the search was abandoned for the day. On Wednesday morning, November 23, 2022, the search resumed. The area where the tracks and items were found was completely combed. 3 teams were deployed and approached the area in different directions. Unfortunately, around 11 a.m., the young teenager's lifeless body was found on the northwest side of Mount Lafayette near the headwaters of Lafayette Brook, 3/4 of a mile from the trail. The body was transferred by a New Hampshire Army National Guard helicopter to the Cannon Mountain Sky area a short time later. On this day, she would have turned 20 years old. Hampshire Fish and Game says they were not dressed properly for the weather conditions. She was wearing a brown jacket. The exact cause of her death was not formally determined, but several sources believe Emily died from exposure to the harsh weather conditions. Police and law enforcement responded to Emily Sotelo's death with condolences and sympathy to her family and friends. They praised the efforts and dedication of the search and rescue teams, who risked their lives to find her. They also stressed the importance of safety and preparation for winter hikes in the White Mountains. Major David Walsh of the New Hampshire Fish and Game stressed the importance of preparation for unexpected situations while hiking in the White Mountains. He recommended that hikers remain aware of weather conditions and dress accordingly. He also advised hikers to bring extra clothing, food and water, as well as a headlamp, compass and map to stay safe. On top of that, he recommended that hikers know their own limits and turn around if necessary. On Thursday, December 1, 2022 at 11 a.m., Emily's funeral service was held at St. Catherine of Alexandria Church in Westford, Massachusetts. This ceremony was also broadcast via live stream, but the funeral would ultimately take place in private. Olivia Sotelo described her daughter at her funeral as a shooting star, so brilliant and bright that had burned so fast. She also said Emily was determined to make the world a better place, but I would do anything to have her back, even without that impact, she said. On Wednesday, December 7 at 5 p.m., her friends and classmates gathered for a memorial celebration of her life in the Great Hall of Seppos College at Vanderbilt University. They described her as caring, brilliant, passionate, and kind. In addition, they shared stories of how they met her and how she had impacted their lives. The climbing community also expressed their sorrow and sympathy for the loss. They praised her courage and enthusiasm for hiking and nature. They also stressed the importance of safety and preparation for winter hiking in the White Mountains. Emily nearly finished her hike and persistently decided to keep going. Eventually, she was blown off the top of the mountain and missed the trail. Like any teenager, she relied on her phone, but there was no reception in the higher parts of the mountain. All these factors proved fatal during her last climbing attempt to complete the 48 summits on her 20th birthday. Emily found a creek and tried to follow it downhill, but succumbed to hypothermia midway through the day on November 20. In her honor, a foundation has been established to continue her dream. The organization offered tips and resources for winter hiking safety. In New Hampshire, a fundraiser was held to complete Emily's hike by a non-profit group called Hiking Buddies NH48. This group connects people interested in hiking the 48 mountains higher than 4,000 feet in New Hampshire. The purpose of this foundation is to make the world a better place by promoting safe hiking, providing knowledge and resources, and helping the underprivileged.